So I'm going to just start my talk. And I'll start it like this. A few months ago, I stumbled across some really interesting research. It was about the state of digital news consumption in Kenya. It was done by a local data research company called Dev. They analyzed close to 180,000 news posts on Facebook and Instagram from 16 of Kenya's top news media outlets. They did this in 2019. What they found was really interesting. The stories that people most engaged with were not the hard-hitting news stories or the serious ones. Neither were they the political ones or even the investigative stories. The content that consistently got the most views and the most engagement on these platforms were the human interest stories. And that is the first trend. People are tired of news. So in this talk, I'm going to share 3 trends with you, and they're linked to stories. What stories people want, how they want to consume them, and the opportunity that I see for brands to tell better stories. So let's go back to the first trend. People are tired of news. So multiple studies have shown that people are moving away from hard news because they find it uninteresting, depressing, overwhelming. So they're disengaging. As a result, a new term has emerged that captures this trend. It's called news avoidance. Now, the Reuters Institute puts out an annual report every year on digital news media. The 2021 report showed an increase in the number of people that actively avoided the news. And that behavior, they said, was driven by 3 factors. 1, information overload. 2, distrust in media. The third thing was negative news. People are tired of hearing about the pandemic, about politics, about crime, and it's taking a toll on people's mental health. So let me go back to the research that was done in Kenya. The stories that people engaged with the most included a video of a young boy, clearly in a rural part of Kenya, who built a really rickety homemade excavator. And the video of him was put out by NTV News on their Facebook page. And NTV is one of Kenya's leading entertainment channels. That video went viral. And to date, it had about 12 million views. Then there was the story of the Kenyan teacher who was the winner of the Global Teacher Prize in 2019. And then the unemployed man who got himself a first-class degree and finally got a job. So what did all these stories, what did they have in common? Well, they were simple, they were engaging, but most of all, they were about people, not issues. So often these human interest stories, they are lighter, they're sometimes inspirational, often they're funny, and they're just more accessible. People see themselves in the stories. In fact, in that particular study, not one political story made it to the top 45 most engaged with stories on those 16 news sites. The data shows that people want soft news. They want stories. So what makes a good story then? So I've got it down to 5 things, and I'm sure you'll find a lot more on the internet. Good stories typically have 5 characteristics. 1, good stories need a hero or heroine, essentially a person, a human. 2, they need context and setting. 3, they need a storyline or a plot, somewhere to take the story. And then, of course, there needs to be a challenge or some sort of obstacle to overcome or some sort of conflict. And at the end, the 5th thing is that it needs resolution. So you need to feel satisfied that you've gone over the challenge or you understood what it was about. Great stories entertain, they inspire, they build familiarity and trust, and people are increasingly gravitating towards that. So, but how do people want to consume their stories? The Deloitte's Digital Media Trends report showed that more people spent more time watching television and films at home, more than they did listening to music, engaging on social media, browsing the internet, and gaming. The Gen Zs were different. They generally spent more time gaming than anything else. But what the data tells me is that there's an increasingly digital world. Audiovisual content, video content is king. So let me throw some stats at you. 1/3 of all online activity is spent watching videos, 1/3. People watch an average of 16 hours of video every single week. Cisco predicted that this year, 2022, 82% of the sort of traffic for internet traffic will come from streaming videos and downloads. And more importantly for Africa, more than 75% of all videos consumed will be played on mobile devices. And that is the second trend, the growth of video. And there's research that unpacks why people are consuming so much video. The HubSpot, they offered some insight into their state of marketing report, which was in 2020. They asked YouTube viewers to rank the reasons why they watch video content. And the top 7 reasons people gave were this: helps me relax, teaches me something new, allows me to dig deeper, makes me laugh, relates to my passion, it's inspiring, and more importantly, makes me forget about the world around me. Basically, people are consuming video content to escape, to be entertained, and they're watching on multiple platforms. The African television broadcast sector is growing. 30 years ago, there were 10 commercial operators on the continent, 10. And today, they're well over 1,000. The paid television market in Africa is also growing, and it's dominated by South Africa's MultiChoice with 20 million subscribers, China's Star Times with 7.8 million subscribers, France's Canal Plus, 6 million. So it's not all happening on the internet. But one of the biggest trends we've seen, especially during the pandemic, is the growth of video on demand and free streaming platforms. Now, the top 3 most popular video streaming services in the world are: 1, YouTube, of course, with over 160 million monthly active users. Netflix has 46.5 million, and Disney's Hulu, which we probably haven't heard of yet because it's not available in Africa, has just under 26.5 million. So let's look at the numbers behind one of the fastest growing sectors, subscription video on demand in Africa. So according to recent research, there are currently just over 5 million video on demand streaming users in Africa, but it's predicted that by 2026, that number will triple to 15 million. Netflix is the biggest player with half of the African market share. It's only 2.6 million subscribers right now, but that's going to grow. Then there's South Africa's Showmax with 688,000, and then Nigerian-owned Iroku TV with 331,000. Disney is due to launch here sometime this year. Then there's Apple, there's Warner, there's Sony, Universal, Amazon is already here with about 100,000 subscribers. So let's quickly go back for a moment to that Kenyan research I started with. The stories people engaged with the most, apart from all being human interest stories, had something else in common. They all featured Kenyans: the teacher, the unemployed man, the boy who built his own excavator. They were all Kenyans. Kenyans most engaged with stories about Kenyans. They wanted to see local content, and this has global implications. The scramble for Africa, as it's been called by these media players, will lead to a demand for local content, local film, in order to attract local audiences. And this is the opportunity I see on the continent for brands. The data shows that people want more entertaining content and they're watching more video. The market tells us that big money and global media brands are moving in, and we know that local content is king. So what can brands do with all of this information? Well, that brings me to the third trend: brands funding films. Look, brands have been making films, videos for a long time. They're typically adverts, stories for social media, and various campaigns, and that's going to continue. But the opportunity that I'm talking about is for brands to take storytelling to the next level and create real films with powerful stories at their core. Film is the most influential medium for stories. It's considered to be the most important and persuasive art form. It's a source of popular entertainment, and it's a powerful platform for informing, for shaping, and for influencing people. And which brand doesn't want to leverage this? But I'm not talking about brand stories. That's the old way brands made films. I'm talking about brands that are taking the essence of storytelling. That's interesting characters, compelling storylines that engage audiences, Some brands are investing in creating films with powerful stories at their core. So let me share my first example. In 2017, Breaking Two, which was a 1-hour documentary film produced by National Geographic Studios, was launched. It was about 3 long-distance athletes and their journey to break the elusive 2-hour marathon. And it was described as a film that, and I quote, explores the emotional journey that bonded 3 super athletes as they give their all to try to make the impossible possible. It was a great story. It had compelling characters, 3 athletes, including the Kenyan long-distance runner Eliud Kipchoge. The setting, the context was seductive. The world of high-performance, long-distance running. It had a great storyline, a plot. It was a race by 3 men against time using the best technology available. There was a massive challenge to overcome, to beat the 2-hour marathon, which was a mentally and physically challenging mission. And at the end, there was resolution. Even though they didn't beat it, we were all fully engaged and totally inspired by their journey. That film was aired on all National Geographic's digital platforms. It was shown on Facebook and on YouTube. It was translated into 31 languages. It got more than 5.5 million views on YouTube. I remember I watched it on a plane journey from Seattle to London, and I was captivated for the entire hour. It was an incredibly powerful movie and an amazing story. And the brand behind it? Let's take a look at the trailer.
Breaking the 2-hour marathon barrier is impossible. Everyone knows that. History knows it. Science knows it. Anyone in their right mind knows it. It's crazy. Nobody can run that fast for that long. So, we're doing it.
Well, some of you are probably thinking, well, that's exactly what you'd expect from Nike. But hold on, there's more. The Most Dangerous Town on the Internet is a 2-part documentary around a Romanian town that's well known for hackers. So the film dives into cybercrime and digital threats, and it features international hackers and scammers sharing their secrets. It's a fascinating investigation. And the brand behind it? Norton, the antivirus and security software company. Let's take a quick look at that trailer.
It's totally a war. Cyberspace is the new theater.
If you just take the I will host everything, you're really facilitating some dark stuff.
We built the business, so we got to make our own rules.
Go away.
Is it your building? Oh,
Don't make me angry.
This is just the latest theater of warfare. Air, land, sea, cyber.
In 2018, Uncle Drew, which was a movie about an NBA player who was originally a character created for a series of Pepsi commercials, was launched. It was the first branded entertainment campaign to be adapted into a major Hollywood picture. It raked in $42 million for that brand. Let's play that.
We all remember that one moment that made us believe.
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
The game is filled with stories of legends and how they were born. But this is not that story.
Was you just watching me sleep again?
Boy, you are better than cable, okay?
I think we're getting the point. What did all of these films have in common? All of the brands that funded these films were not featured in the actual storylines. Yes, we saw a lot of Nike branding, but the story was not about Nike. They were not brand or branded films. They were films that raised awareness of the same issues, the same values that these brands cared about, and that's why they invested. In April last year, Johnson & Johnson's took the idea one step further. Neutrogena, their skincare range, established its own content studio, which will produce both long and short form unbranded material for the brand. Their first documentary, In the Sun, was produced by actress Kerry Washington, and it's about people battling skin health challenges like skin cancer. So whether it's a documentary film or a traditional film, whether it's long form or short form, there is an opportunity to provide entertainment for audiences through powerful storytelling that subtly promotes your brand. And people don't care who's paying for it, as long as it's compelling, entertaining, and meaningful, as long as it's a great story. And there are a number of growing of US brands that are venturing down this path. HP, MailChimp, Nutella, Stella Artois, Airbnb, they are all investing in making real films with real stories that are aligned to rather than about their brands. And here is the opportunity I see for Africa. The film industry on the continent is ripe for similar partnerships between filmmakers and brands. In 2021, UNESCO published probably the most comprehensive mapping of the continent's film and audiovisual industries. The report showed that the sector is, as we know, underfunded and definitely underdeveloped. It estimated the sector currently only employs about 5 million people and accounts for only $5 billion in GDP for the continent. But the important thing is there is a film industry in Africa, and most countries are creating movies. Just to give you an idea, Nigeria's Nollywood, as we know, is the world's second largest movie producer, and they produce about 2,500 films every year. Ghana and Kenya produce about 600 each. Tanzania, about 500, which is actually about the same number as Hollywood produces. Uganda is on 200, Tunisia on 185, Ethiopia on 140, Zambia 105. This is proof that the sector is growing with limited input from both the private and public sectors. This is all organic. And where some see challenges, I really see opportunities for brands. We have a youthful continent. It's rich in talent and creativity. Today, technology has made filmmaking more accessible and so much more affordable. Distribution opportunities are growing, and the quality of films, they're definitely getting better. The UNESCO report shows that there is a huge potential for this industry. They believe that this sector has a potential to create over 20 million jobs. We're standing at 5 million today. We can get to 20 million jobs and contribute 20 billion to the continent's combined GDP. But the African film industry needs the private sector to step in and help make it viable and sustainable. And that is the real opportunity for brands in Africa to do well and do good. So collaboration between brands and African filmmakers has the potential to do three things. One, create great, compelling stories that are brand aligned, but told by Africans for African audiences. Two, stimulate the market and catalyze creativity in Africa. Three, create more jobs in the creative industries. And that's one thing that Africa desperately needs. And I want to end with this short clip. So let's play the trailer. That film was called Timothy, as you saw. It's about a humanoid boy trying to navigate life in Nigeria. It was made by a group of 10 young Nigerian filmmakers who are based in Kaduna, which is in the north of Nigeria. And they range between the ages of 7, yes, 7 and 27. They call themselves the critics. I mean, CNN, the BBC have written about them, but these young guys are creating epic sci-fi movies using just their mobile phones. Last year, Africa No Filter, the organization that I run, gave them a grant of just $2,000. And that was from our Storytellers Funds. Ours was the first grant they'd ever received. They were so excited about what they could actually do with some real money. I showed the clip because I wanted to help you see that what I mean by amazing, when I talk about young, really talented filmmakers who can do so much with so little. And I really think there's an opportunity for a win-win partnership between brands and filmmakers in Africa. And that'll see more and better, much better films coming out of Africa. And that is the trend that Africa is ready with open arms to receive. Thank you. Back to you, Rutendo.
Thank you so much for that, Moky. I feel like you were crossing over to me, so this is my news experience with you. Thank you so much for such a phenomenal presentation. We can definitely tell that your career has taken you through storytelling, because you beautifully articulated the story from talking about news to the local opportunities to what the future of media can look like for the continent. So thank you for that. And the data that you provided, the stats you provided, the insights, the trailers, all beautifully supported and articulated your presentation today. So thank you so much for that, Moky. We do have a question, and for those of you who still would like to ask questions, please definitely pop it in the chat box, or if you just want to share with Moky how you felt her presentation was, what you took away from it, please make use of the chat as well. So Moky, the question is streaming video on demand making traditional television irrelevant?
You know, I mean, I have to say, video on demand is usually subscriber based. There's usually a revenue model, which means that people have to pay. And, as you know, unemployment figures are high on the continent. And I do think that the growth of, I talked about the growth of private sector stations. There is still a need for free content. YouTube remains the world's largest sort of streaming platform, and actually in Africa it is the #1 university. I call it the University of YouTube because it's free and it's accessible. So I don't think video on demand or streaming places like things like Netflix or Showmax will replace. I think they will grow, and I think because of the revenue model there, I think it'll generate a lot more local content, which is what this industry needs to catalyze creativity and more filmmaking.
Thank you so much for those insights, much appreciated. And just to add on to what you had said towards the end of your presentation, is I would love to see, and I look forward to seeing how brands will be creating less less product heavy or brand heavy content, and how they will be partnering with local filmmakers to obviously create local content, more local content, taking advantage of those opportunities and asking themselves, why are we creating? What is our why at the end of the day? Why are we doing what we're doing? So thank you again for your insights.
Thanks very much, Rutendo, and well done. Keep up the energy.
Thank you so much.